favorite moment in the entire... Maybe I should complicate this before I start speaking here.
Welcome to Comics League Dark. Yes, we actually have a name for this show now. So I'm here. Nick is somewhere, and I'm here with the boys. I got Jay Heat. What's up, brother?
What's up?
Not impressed.
And I got Taladia. What's up, dude?
What's up, everybody? I know it's early out
Fly,
of the
son. It's time.
There you go.
Yes, I have to.
You
It's
told me you
time.
wanted Superman, so I'm like, I got you one of the best Superman clips.
Yes, and guys, we're gonna be talking about Green Lantern, but we want to quickly before we start, we gotta
Yeah.
talk about this DC big news about obviously James Gunn and then obviously Rocksteady thing because Rocksteady, now the DC, well, Rocksteady's founders are gone, and they're bringing new people in. What does this mean for the DC gaming franchise for Rocksteady? That's the biggest question of them all before we hop into that. And also, I know you did a stream about James Gunn, and I want to give my 2 cents before we talk about Green
Sure, go ahead.
Lantern.
Go ahead, man.
I think, James Gunn is going to be the founding, he's going to be a creative person, while Peter Safran is going to be the business guy. So,
Makes sense because that way he's not bogged down with the business stuff. He can focus on creating.
yes, creative. So, expect, I think we're in decent hands. If he, screws up, people gonna barge down his Twitter feed anyway. So he
But
better
here's the thing.
watch out.
It's not going to turn. I'm 100% sure it's not going to turn into the entire DCU is not going to turn to Peacemaker verse. It's not.
No, it's not gonna take into Peacemakerverse, but it's gonna be like much better than what we got, like with Hamada Burger.
Yeah, I'd rather have Gunn honestly than Hamada.
So
'Cause
I
at
was gonna
least,
say though,
Yeah, go ahead.
what is your guys' thoughts? Firstly, on the Rocksteady situation, what would you want them to do after Suicide Squad? And also, what is your thoughts now that we know Henry Cavill is doing a Hope and Superman, and he acknowledges James Gunn as the head of DC Studios, and now the thing is not called DCEU; it's going to be called DCU.
Well, for one thing, I love how like the anti-Snyder folks are like, see, he doesn't want to be with Snyder's vision of Superman. I'm like, if again, this is how I know no one reads those storyboards. If you look at the storyboards at this point, Superman is that hopeful being. That was always the plan. So there you go. And well, it makes sense that he'd want Superman to be more hopeful because now he is that Superman after Justice League. That's the conclusion of his arc. So it just makes all the more sense to me. As for the Rocksteady founders leaving, that was the biggest shock to me, to the point where I was like, oh, wow. Because in terms of what Rocksteady projects I want, it's either Superman game or Green Lantern game, like a AAA Green Lantern, like space opera game. What about you, Jahit?
I hate to see it's an end of an era. They were the founders of Rocksteady. So I hate to see them go, but it does create more opportunities for better or for worse.
Yeah, I mean, a great opportunity. Now, the next game, obviously after Suicide Squad, is going to be a big mystery. So I just want to thought I'd give my sense on that because I wasn't on the last stream, and it was like 5:15 in the morning, and I was going to bed, and you guys
Slacker.
died up. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. You're the one who starts late, my time.
I start late because I work and DC keeps announcing stuff.
Yeah,
This is like the fourth straight night we've done this.
yeah,
Yeah,
fourth
yeah,
straight
yeah.
night. I know. It's crazy. But now we're gonna dive into the juicy stuff, and that is our review of John Stewart Green Lantern animated movie.
Yes. So Going into this movie for the first time, I was super excited because I've said many times, John Stewart's my boy. I started on the DCAU, and that's honestly was kind of funny. I thought he was the one Green Lantern from Earth. I didn't know Hal Jordan existed, so when I'm reading the comics and this white dude shows up, I'm like, who the hell are you? But I really I like John Stewart as a character, and I like what this movie did for him because he's like overcoming like guilt at being in the military, and then he has to sort of step up. And I like how they sort of adapted both Hard Traveling Heroes and Emerald Twilight into like one movie, but did it really well.
And to be fair, they did kind of give John Kyle Rayner's origin, because if you go back to the 70s and John's debuting story, and I even cringe when I say this, but John's characterization was pretty much an angry black man. That's John. That was back in those times. Sure, he developed and matured over time, but in his debuting storyline, that was his mentality. And you actually see some of that, although heavily toned down. What's up, Joga? You do see some of that in the beginning of the film. Though I am kind of peeved they pretty much gave him Kyle Rayner's origin.
I was like, oh, come on.
I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, if you're going to do that, you might as well have made it a buddy cop between John and Kyle. But the tribute to Brave and the Bold was a nice touch, so I forgive it.
It was kind of a buddy cop when you think about it, except it's between John and Green Arrow. Which I like Troy Baker as Green Arrow. I think he did a fantastic job voicing, and I love Hawkgirl in this movie so much.
That surprised me that Troy Baker was a part of this universe as.
And Droga, you're wrong, but okay. But yeah, I was like, where have I heard that name, that voice before? Oh, it's Troy Baker.
I thought maybe he'd be sticking to the darker realm, which was the Batman side of things, and doing something with the Bat family.
And Droga, why do you think Beware My Power was terrible?
Probably it's probably the origin thing. I mean, they changed. Well, what you have to understand is that this is a different continuity. They've changed a lot when you look at like the Tomorrowverse. So a lot of the stuff, it kind of makes sense that they changed. So I'm like, oh, okay. At least it was a good movie.
Yeah, by the way, sorry guys if I'm yawning. Sorry, it's 5:15 in the morning here, so I'll give you guys a bit.
Going north. Not the best casting for Green Lantern, especially when you get to the end with Parallax. I can see that. I can see that because doing Parallax Hal is a completely different performance. So I can see. Yeah. I can see.
What they should have done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Saladia.
I was gonna say, like, when I watched the film, I really enjoyed the fact they took elements from certain books and they implemented it into this film, and you got to see Adam Strange for the first time in animation.
Well,
we never saw Adam Strange in the animated universe in the movie realm of things.
He was a featurette in the Showcase short. I don't know if you watched it.
That doesn't count. That does not count towards the.
It's the exact same character model.
In a continuity.
It's a different thing, and it wasn't part of, like, let's say the DCAU, the new 52 DCAU, or even pre-52 AU. But now he's part of this new continuity, and it was great to see that they acknowledge some characters that are lesser known. And
I also really enjoy his dynamic with Hawkgirl. Like when they meet and they immediately try to kill each other, and I'm like, "Yep, that's Shayera." Yeah. That is definitely. As soon as she shows up, I'm like, "Yep, that is definitely Shayera."
I mean, she's definitely not the voice actress from the DCAU, but you know what they were doing.
No, by the way, Droga, you're wrong. The Adam Strange Showcase is not canon in terms of where they are right now, because we're talking about the DC new animated universe.
Now, I kind of
in this continuity.
I kind of see Droga's point because it's the same character model. They reference him disappearing from the Zeta 2 and not finding his way back right away. You could argue it's adjacent or semi-canonical, but nothing to directly confirm. Okay, the Adam Strange Showcase is directly canonical to the Tomorrowverse. It's again
True.
adjacent or semi-canonical, but there's nothing to directly state it's canon other than Adam's disappearance.
It's
But
cool.
you definitely could make that argument.
Mm-hmm.
You
Another thing
could.
another thing I really liked. Once again, what's kind of funny is that as soon as did you guys like predict the whole like parallax thing? Like,
Nah.
and you were starting to watch this movie because I didn't see it coming until like John rounds that corner and you see all the people like that got shot in the back. I'm like, okay, so Hal's the only one that went this way. Oh, wait a second. This is a Green Lantern thing. So there's one thing they could be referencing.
I was suspicious, but when Sinestro was kind of like a patsy, because that's not how Sinestro would normally act.
Mm-hmm.
And he pretty much infected Hal with Parallax in an attempt to control him, but it completely backfired, and he ended up being Parallax's bitch. I mean,
Now let me ask you this: do you think they could bring Hal Jordan back because they did in the comics, and he did die in the storyline?
You're comparing Zero Hour was cosmic contrivance, and he ended up bound to the Spectre. This was a clean arrow to the chest.
The only way that he could come back is by Blackest Night.
Ooh, if they do a Blackest Night movie, that'd be cool. And there are a
That's
fair
the
amount of
only-
dead people in this universe. That's true. And they do like the White Lantern thing.
Yeah. So that's
They
the
could do
only
that.
way that we can.
But with the Guardians dead, how would you set up Blackest Night? Because the Guardians were all but wiped out, except
but
maybe Dan Fett.
What you could do is you could make it so like the Guardians were always hiding this. You could still reference that, but then you could have where it happens like because Blackest Night it doesn't necessarily necessitate the Guardians being alive. The cover up is, but not the actual event happening. Because remember, it was happening no matter what. The Guardians just tried to cover it up. That's true. I would have liked if they did a Justice League movie before this because the Justice League is formed off. Well, technically, it's not formed off screen because at the end of World War II, of JSA World War II, Flash goes to Superman and goes, "Okay, we should work together. I've seen a world where superheroes work together."
But
So
that was a
you could
pitch. That was like a one-off conversation. That wasn't and I get why, because you already had the DCAMU with Justice League War, and they didn't want to cram in a lot of assets to that. They just wanted to build it develop the universe passively. So I get what they were going for, but it just would have been a nice touch to at least get one Justice League film and not just wait till you have to do it as an event piece.
But
at least we are getting. Yeah, go ahead later.
I was going to say, this movie, though, is, I would say, it's still a solid 7.5 out of 10. You still fun parts into there. There's still some bad parts, but at the end of the day, you're going to have fun with it. And
it's a Green Lantern movie, so
it's a Green Lantern movie.
They come on.
And also the fact that that was going to say that also that
I will play devil's advocate. The Rand Thanagar War was a bit bloated. It was to an extent, but you have John and Shira. I mean, come on.
I lost the train of thought, but I was going to say is that I think that this movie won't have Super Sons. At least I don't think it'll feature any of the Super Sons, right? And I know we meant, I know. If you
and Tevy's going to show up in 3, 2, 1 at some point.
At some point, yeah. So I was going to say, though, that I don't think, the Super Sons are going to be a part of this. I think this universe is going to be separate to that. I think this universe is solely going to focus on Clark's early years as Clark's in the Justice League's early years. I would say Silver Age, I would say.
Yeah.
Probably, I would say around that.
Yeah, okay.
I could see that. I could see that.
A Silver Age Justice League.
Maybe some Bronze Age or 90s stories like Azrael or Wally West's Flash with better Kid Flash. I could see it.
I could see that happening too, but I think Silver Age, something like the New Frontier did, but more modern, up to date.
Yeah,
What would actually be kind of cool as a follow up to this, instead of going straight to Blackest Night, they do Sinestro Corps War, except it's the Corps getting revenge on John Stewart for killing Sinestro.
I got it. Sinestro's daughter, the sequel, Sinestro Corps War with Sinestro's daughter and Kyle Rayner's, and John has to watch over him.
That works. By the way, how cool is that way to kill Sinestro? He just calls the ring and it goes right through him. I was like, that is actually really cool. I didn't see that coming, but I'm like, oh, okay.
But I was gonna say this, right? At least now we know what WBD is gonna be doing going forward with their next animated films, and it's all set in the Tomorrowverse anyway. Ruby, what's it called? The Legion of Superheroes is the next film, and that is still set in the Tomorrowverse.
What about War World? Because they're definitely coming out with a War movie next year.
Yeah, that's the Justice League movie.
That's the Justice League movie. Yeah, that's going to be the first Tomorrowverse Justice League movie.
I'm so excited. I'm excited to see this team's dynamic, because we already have a lineup that I didn't see coming in Vexen. I was like, oh, okay, because as far as I know, she's never really been a founding member in the animated projects. I know she's been in the comics.
Universe.
Am I the only one who thought they were actually going to have Dawn, Vixen, and Green Arrow go to space, and then Vixen and Shira just throw claws at each other the whole time?
That would have been cool. But again, I love Shira because that's pretty much the Hawk Girl, the way they characterize Hawk Girl in the animated show, but
to an
with
extent,
a different voice actress. But I just love when she goes, "I won't kill you unless you annoy me, threaten me, touch me, or anything like that." And they're like, "Okay, cool."
Mhm.
And I also felt another thing I liked about this movie. They have another badass moment where John Stewart belts out the Green Lantern oath as he's beating Hal Jordan to a pulp, and you see his evolution, his arc, understanding the meaning of those words.
it works for the story, but giving John Kyle's origin almost to the point of ripping it off, it's gonna be a sour thing. It's gonna be a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of weird watching that movie because I know, because I'm like, man, this would have been a great Kyle Rayner movie. And he becomes Ion at the end. That would be so cool, because that way he can like repopulate the Green Lantern Corps.
And actually be imbued with the entity of Will, since you already have Parallax in there. Have an established John Stewart, but with Hal helping with the Zeta beams, John has to patrol the sector, leaving Kyle to be the new Green Lantern recruited. You could have made it work, but you would have, made Kyle the everyman instead of John. But you already had the Brave and the Bold tribute with Green Arrow, and it just a more experienced John would have been able to make it work. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. And I do think they should have done Kyle at this point, because again, that's the origin. But I did like what they did with John Stewart, and essentially him like trying to figure out like how the ring works and talking to the ring, or the ring's like, "Were you talking to me?" He goes, "Yes, I'm talking to you."
So before I have to go, because it's already 5:30 in the morning here.
Wuss.
No, don't call me a wuss. It's Friday morning. What are you chatting about? But I'll be on the next stream, guys. So
All right.
Don't worry, I'll be on the next stream, which hopefully won't, because are you working Friday or no?
Yeah, I am.
Because I'm gonna be here. I'm actually gonna be on I'm gonna be on Nick's channel as well for Friday Night Frenzy, and hopefully I can set something up with Taladia next week, and then right after Friday Night Frenzy I'll be here for Comics League Dark later tomorrow night.
So either tomorrow or this weekend I'll be doing on your stream, Jared, and then I think next week is our thing on my channel. Jared, me, you, and Nick.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, send me the link.
Yeah. It'll be. I have to set everything up. So me and Comics League he has to run it through me and help me through that and sort that, organize it.
I gotcha.
But before I go, guys, make sure you do subscribe to Jared, subscribe to me, and guys, help Jared get up to 500 subs, guys. It'd be very much appreciated if you get him up to
Almost
500
there.
subs. We're almost there, guys. And also hit that like button and subscribe. Anyway, stay safe out there. I'll see you guys on the next stream. Peace.
See you later, sleepyhead.
See you later.
So, what was your favorite part of the movie?
The favorite part of the movie was just Troy Baker made a surprisingly good Green Arrow.
He did, honestly.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be a little flat, but he exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, exactly. And the animation style for the Tomorrowverse is a little weird, but I think it worked better in this movie than it did in past ones.
Yeah, because if you tried to do Green Lantern Beware My Power and the Decamu, it would just look bloated.
I wish they did a Green Lantern movie in the Decamu, though. That would have been cool.
They should have.
Because they had John Stewart and Hal Jordan. They could have done a buddy cop movie.
And then it's just Decamu didn't really get a lot of traction. I mean, it was already competing with the Arrowverse and diminishing sales numbers with the DVD releases. The Decamu was ultimately an afterthought.
Yeah, unfortunately, because there was so much potential there. It's really just
Then
then
the New 52 brand died out for Rebirth in 2016. It was really on a half-life those last 3 or 4 years.
And they tried to turn it into Rebirth like partway through, so I'm like, okay, this sucks. They didn't commit to it being the new 52 Earth. They did the whole Superman and Wonder Woman breaking up. They did the whole basically Superman Reborn, where he's in the new suit. It's lots of stuff that's really weird. And yes, Drugga, I agree with you on that one.
Decamu better than the MCU. That's a hot take. Well, and better than the MCU now. If you were talking about the Infinity Saga Phase 1 to 3, that'd be a debate. But
if you're talking about the Snyderverse versus Phase 1 through 3, yeah, I agree with you. The Snyderverse is better. Just saying, if it actually got its support. But we all know how that turned out. But I agree with that. I did also like to see Adam Strange because I didn't really know that much about the character. My only exposure to him as a character was the Krypton show because he showed up in that one. And I definitely liked how this show dealt with like the Rand Thanagar War because that's a complicated storyline in and of itself. But they made it like more of a set piece instead of like the actual story per se.
And I really think you could have made a sequel with Parallax. Have Hal come back to his senses, but only reveal like at the very end, like, oh, Parallax is still there. Like have Hal fake it, like Anakin Skywalker type situation. What have I done?
Yeah, exactly. That would have actually been kind of cool. I did like the obvious. I did like the very obvious tribute to that cover from Emerald Twilight of him with the rings. I'm like, I know what you're. As soon as he did that, I'm like, it's Emerald Twilight. I see what they're doing here.
But I don't think I just think direct. I don't think they should have killed Hal off. Not just be a one and done. Save it for a sequel. Let him really go off the rails because he was clearly under the influence of the entity. He could have been guided back.
Or can you imagine him actually going up against the Justice League? That would have been cool.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
Particularly this JL. That would have been really dope. But I will say, though, I liked the Hal Jordan Parallax, like, character design where it's like he's got, like, this rock-like body thing that's kind of glowing green.
Casing, but he's practically naked the entire time. Use the Parallax armor. If you're going to use Parallax, where's the freaking armor? It wouldn't have even been that hard to make.
I did say, I did think also that the Parallax entity itself is kind of underwhelming. It's just a tiny little creature. I'm like, no, why?
I can't confirm this, but I'm starting to get the feeling like everything was so chaotic in DC when this was being made, they weren't really confident in the story. So they tried to resolve everything as a one and done just in case it did poorly. And it did, but
even though Emerald Twilight is a story you don't do a one and done. That alone, but Hal Jordan is not a one-off Villain. Yes, we're talking. Yes, Master Sergeant. We're talking about the 2022 Beware My Power animated movie. But yeah, it was really odd that I'm like, you don't make Hal Jordan the one and done villain. By the way, Draga, I do agree with you. It was still really good. It had its problems, but it was still super dope. I liked it.
There were a few snags, but it got to a decent place by the end.
Because Apocalypse War was like my favorite DC animated movie of all time, because it's like Superman beating the crap out of Darkseid and like whipping him around like a ragdoll.
Oh, come on. Under the Red Hood was a goddamn masterpiece.
Okay, that's true. I did enjoy Under the Red Hood, but as a Justice League fan, I'm more aligned to a Justice League movie.
That's fair.
But it's kind of funny. It's basically a Constantine movie when you think about it. But going back to Green Lantern, this would have also been a cool idea for a movie. Actually, he would have been a good idea for a movie. For a better plot, Hal crashes back to Earth and says the Green Lantern Corps being wiped out. And by the way, yes, the Red Hood one was pretty good. It's like Hal crashes, and then Hal's the one who tells John Stewart about like what's going on with the ring, and that he's trying to there's like a plot that Hal is trying to weaken Earth's defenses by getting the potential Green Lantern off Earth or such. In other words, make it so like Hal crashes and he tells the whole story, then later it's revealed that Hal was the bad guy the whole time instead of like the Guardian crashing.
Yeah, but at least that way you could have let it imply, okay, it's taking elements from Kyle's origin, but it's relatively its own thing.
Hey, Tevia, you're late. We said Super Sons 10 minutes ago. But yeah, but all in all, as a Green Lantern like nerd, because that's one of the parts of DC that I like really, really, really know pretty well. I did like when they arrive at Oa, I can like point out all the dead Green Lanterns, and I'm like, okay, so there's Salak, there's Kilowog, there's Saronic Natu, I think. There's Lyra, there's Boudica. I knew a lot of the different lanterns, and Tevia, was it disappointing because it didn't somehow fit in the Super Sons?
Come on, man. But seriously, if you had to go through that movie, especially on a rewatch, all the character I mean, you can recognize just about everyone from Emerald Twilight. There's even an Abin Sur cameo somewhere if you know where to look for it.
Somewhere, yeah. And I did like where like everyone has a little statue, a little hologram, but Hal Jordan is like the most ginormous because he's the greatest Green Lantern.
And
so
I definitely
I want to see the movie where Hal is crowned as the greatest Green Lantern. We've never really had that.
They really try to give it this Anakin Skywalker vibe to where even the greatest can fall, but it just felt more like Count Dooku. It just felt stale because, come on, we know the only time Hal ever goes this off the rails is because of the Parallax entity or the destruction of Coast City. Those are the only instances where Hal really goes off the rails. So if you're a deep cut comics fan or you grew up in the 90s, the reveal, it wasn't that hard to figure out.
Yeah, and here's the thing: they couldn't do like the destruction of Coast City because they haven't done the death of Superman yet, so they can't do like Decamo. They could have done it. That would have been a movie for the Decamo if they actually they had all this potential. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's a good one. I like that one. That's a good line. It would have been cool if they had like one survivor Green Lantern like on on John's team a little bit, because it would have been like it would have been a little bit more like, okay, it's a Green Lantern movie. But I felt I like the character dynamics too. But
you are missing out, Master Sergeant. You are missing out on some good comics.
Read Green Lantern. Read the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run. You will
not be disappointed.
There was nothing else you have to read. That is DC Star Wars. Plus, seeing Hal Jordan become Parallax really confused me. Now, if you read the comics.
No, to be fair, because Parallax is a retcon, from Grant Morrison's Green Lantern Rebirth about how
Jeff
essentially
Johns,
how,
not Grant Morrison.
thank you, Jeff Johns. Essentially, how Hal went nuts. Because if you had to go from original Emerald Twilight, he went through a lot of emotional trauma. His city was destroyed. His family was presumed dead. It was, and he arguably has the strongest willpower. And let's be honest, the Guardians were always a bunch of pricks anyway.
He became willpower. Literally became willpower. That is the most Green Lantern thing ever. So yeah, it doesn't make sense if he's like the greatest Green Lantern that he suddenly has like a snap. I'm like, what? This doesn't connect. So I like. By the way, if Green Lantern Rebirth were written by Grant Morrison, you wouldn't be able to understand what is going on.
Now not always. Only when he goes really off the rails. The Son of Batman trilogy and his run, you're able to understand that. Sure, there are a few deep cuts that'll go over your head, but the story itself is pretty solid.
Yeah, and JLA is actually pretty solid, his JLA run. But yeah, I mean, I also did like that Green Lantern Rebirth was basically them trying to also explain why Green Lanterns are weak to the color yellow. It's better than Alan Scott, who was weak to wood. I'm like, what? What the hell is going on?
There's an innuendo in there somewhere, but I'm not.
Yeah, there is an innuendo. Yeah, but it's like Grant Morrison's Oh yeah, he did do a Green Lantern run where like Green Lantern fought God, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how to feel about this one, Grant. But my problem with the reason why I never read the Grant Morrison Green Lantern runs, because I've heard that that's basically Grant Morrison undoing the Jeff Johns run by like killing off all the other Lantern Corps. So I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm just gonna read Jeff Johns. That's the good one. I just want to read the story where Larfleeze is trying to find Santa Claus. That's great.
That was a good holiday special.
That was so good. So speaking of, because here's the thing. It would have been also kind of a little bit cool, and maybe they can do this in a sequel, and like another John Stewart Green Lantern, if they did like the destruction of Zhan-Shi, kind of, or like had him sort of did that kind of. And by the way, Tevye has to bring up John Kent, but yeah, that is funny. I love when people make fun of anything Bendis did because it's hilarious.
And it's Bendis.
And it's Bendis. But what were you going to say to later? I almost said to later. Jay Heat.
Speaking of Bendis, Teen Lantern was a terrible character.
Oh, yes. Again, it's because here's the thing. I hate, for one thing, and so is Far Sector, because they bent the Green Lantern rules in order to create these characters.
Well, why would you leave a Green Lantern power pack in the middle of nowhere? And as for, I'm fine with Far Sector. You want to do a distant Green Lantern in distant space like the Unknown Regions with Star Wars. But why is she humanoid?
Yeah. It does make sense.
If this was a Starfire situation, Cameranian or someone of a more alien appearance, I could buy that. But they go out of their way to make another human Green Lantern and send her to the Unknown Regions. I'm like, this is just contrived.
And correct me if I'm wrong, they made it so the mother passed the Green Lantern Corps onto someone. That's not how it works. They did a storyline where the son of Abin Sur got pissed off that the ring didn't come to him. And second off, as opposed to Teen Lantern, how do you hack a Green Lantern ring? It's so stupid. Yeah, it wasn't Far Sector.
To be fair, Far Sector was a direct graphic novel / light novel series. It just happened to get canonized because of Future State. So I will give Tevye that.
Mm-hmm.
But
it shouldn't have been canon.
Teen Lantern was no excuse. Now there is another Green Lantern light novel that has a grandma Green Lantern and her grandson gets the ring, but again, it's strictly a light novel series. It's strictly a novel series, and it doesn't really hurt anything in the grand scheme of things.
What they should, by the way, the one thing I want, and you can tell me if this is too much, can I get a movie with Jessica Cruz, please?
The only way Jessica Cruz would work outside the DCAU and her arc in that film is if she's strictly power ranked. It's going to be like an Alan Scott situation where she does get a lantern ring, but she's going to have a different power set.
Or they could just do a Green Lantern ring finds her while she's agoraphobic, and then the whole thing is her discovering that she can overcome fear.
But it would just be a retread of her arc in Justice League.
Or don't even to make it her origin. Just make it essentially the Rage Planet book, for instance, where it's a buddy cop with her and Simon Baz.
Okay.
You don't have to. You can allude to her origin, but you don't have to actually do it as a movie. Because she's like one of the best new Green Lantern characters, I think, that has come up in like recent years. And she's like Hal Jordan and her and John Stewart are like my favorite Lanterns, because they did something cool with her and made her different, as opposed to like all these other diversity characters where they make them carbon copies of the one people like.
Ironically enough, Kyle Rayner was originally written to be a mix of Hal Jordan and Peter Parker. Kyle Rayner is technically DC's Peter Parker.
I detect that whenever you read like Grant Morrison's JLA run, he reads like Peter Parker.
Even got a frigid love interest. You ever? Well, one was frozen in a refrigerator, the other was a broken neck. Oh, come on, you know.
Yeah, that would have been super cool. Can we get a Jessica Cruz animated project that's not that's not that superhero girl show, please?
That was the original project for the Green Lantern show, but they decided to play it safe and make it solely John Stewart. And let's be honest, it really would have been just a live action Emerald Knights.
Well, actually, I believe the show is going to focus on Alan Scott and Guy Gardner. Like, you guys are light here ahead of my reading time, but it's so interesting to see your passion carrying on. I catch a few characters' names here and there. Well, that's what this channel is supposed to be. We're supposed to like inspire people to take up these books. But read Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. It will make you fall in love with Green Lantern. You literally do not have to have any prior knowledge of Green Lantern. Just start at volume 1, Green Lantern Rebirth. It will explain everything you have to know.
And just write it. Now, I will give Tevia, this is for you. What do you think of Tomasi when Tomasi pretty much took over after Tom King screwed up with the Batcat wedding? What do you think of Fear State? Because I just thought it was a ripoff of Arkham Knight, Arkham Knight's campaign.
It is. It's so whiz, except without the Arkham Knight. And yes, that would be really cool, because I maintain that. Can you imagine Atrocitus invades Earth and those two Green Lanterns are the only ones that can fight it? John says in the guy, no. He's good as a comic book writer, not as a movie guy. And plus, this is back when he was in his prime too.
Yes. And if you're gonna say Stargirl, Stargirl's a passion project for him because the character was immortalized after his deceased sister. So technically, Stargirl's a passion project for him. So that wouldn't really count as a fair assessment of his craft.
By the way, here's the problem. Here's my problem with Fear State. It's the second event in like a year where Gotham is taken over by one supervillain. Why do people still live in Gotham? Because you had like Joker War or something like that, where the Joker takes over. Then you have Fear State. I'm like, can you guys not take over Gotham? Can we have a small scale Batman story, please?
I mean, anything usually small scale is just a prelude or setup or building up to another big supervillain bout. So you're gonna fall. So even a basic Batman writer is gonna fall into that trap to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Also, you know what I actually read that was super really good is actually Green Lantern Earth 1.
That was a good book.
Because here's the thing, this is also kind of like the story in this movie, because the Green Lantern Corps is pretty much wiped out, like the Jedi were after Order 66, and then Hal has to reboot the Corps essentially. Except in this one, it was the Guardians that turned against them. But dude, again, Earth 1, biggest like letdown in that they didn't like link these books together. Granted, with the Wonder Woman book and women taking over the world, it was kind of hard to link those link that to like Superman.
The Earth One brand kind of fell apart, but I get your point.
My point is they could have linked those the books together in one solid continuity, but they didn't.
And Tevia, City of Bane was a very contrived story. And even if first of all, it was a Nightfall ripoff. Second of all, Thomas, you have Flashpoint Batman allying with Bane specifically to prove a point. Wouldn't it just to break Batman so bad he would never don the cowl again? A much simpler plan: have Batman and Catwoman get married and just kill Selina off.
Oh, that would have worked. That would have broken Batman. And by the way, Master Sergeant, this is the book I'm talking about, or like a trade of it. But I'm saying I have the omnibus. But this
The
is what
omnibus
you need to
gives you
read.
the whole story.
This is what you need to read, because this has Rebirth and Sinestro Corps War, where the entire where like Coast City previously was known as Ghost City, but during the Sinestro Corps War, Hal told them evacuate. Then everyone is shining green lights in the sky to say, "We're with you, Green Lantern." And then all of a sudden, the Coast City becomes the city without fear. That is the love. I'm like, yes.
And yes, the worst Earth 1 book was Teen Titans.
Yes.
Earth 1. We don't talk about that book.
Earth 1 Superman was freaking dope.
It was awesome. Not as good as Batman Earth 1, but
not as good as Batman, and Wonder Woman was pretty decent. There were a few parts where I'm like, okay, but it wasn't as horrible as I thought it was going to be.
Now I'm surprised they didn't have a Hawkman, because you have Shayera's Hawkwoman, and I mean, come on. And technically, the DCAU kind of created their original Carter Hall, and then brought in the comics adjacent one as a Stalker episode. But having, just even if it was a cameo, just Carter and getting in John's face, with Shayera standing like right there, all in the same room.
Yeah, because actually, what's interesting is that Carter died in the World War II thing. So if he reincarnate, if they just do the reincarnated storyline, yes, hunt it down. Trust me. This will make you fall in love with Green Lantern.
It's worth it.
Literally, I was not as big of a Green Lantern fan as I am today. This will make you a Green Lantern fan.
Now
it is legendary.
Now you are going to have a bit of whiplash when you get to the New 52 version, because there's a big design change because of the New 52. There you go.
Just skip that. Exactly.
Just skip the New 52 stories and you'll be fine.
Yeah, but dude, you will love it. Even the New 52 storylines were pretty cool, but
they kind of got blended in with Darkseid War and the Justice League Gods tie-ins.
True, but at least just start the run. You will not be able to put it down. Trust me. He's one of the. That is the run. If you ever needed to let me put it this way, that's required reading if you've ever liked anything Jeff Johns has ever written. That's required reading if you're a Jeff Johns fan and a Green Lantern fan. But anyway, going back to the movie, I think, yeah, I could see this more as a Kyle Rayner storyline. Mostly because it's a Kyle Rayner origin story. It's basically a Kyle Rayner movie, but with John Stewart. I've been a Lantern fan since the 80s for no reason at all. I can't explain it, but I will yes, do it. They also have a scene where Batman gets a yellow lantern ring. Briefly, but it's really cool.
And first of all, Kyle Rayner's IP, Kyle Rayner's IP is not as big as it was in the 90s. But Kyle, hey,
Nicky! What's up, you slacker?
I mean, but Kyle's like up there. His IP is pretty up there. This really could have. And if you really wanted the Batman Brave and the Bold tribute, you could have just had solely Oliver and Kyle. Just have John be standing stoic in the corner. Maybe a little banter with Shayera.
But I did like the chemistry between John and Oliver. It kind of had, but first off, Droga, that's actually hilarious. But it definitely kind of had like hard traveling heroes vibes, kind of, in that sense. And by speaking of the New 50, how'd you feel about Parallax appearing in the main Green Lantern book, fighting Hal Jordan during the DCU arc? I thought it was not it.
It was a good callback. It was more of a callback than a consistent story, because the DCU era was just creators doing whatever they wanted. There was no real consistency during that period. Now you did have a few, like the Patrick Gleason run, but that tied directly into Robin War. You had the end of the New 52 Earth 2 saga. That was pretty solid. And I think that was the only two that were directly good. The rest were either one shots or completely mediocre.
And first off, Master Sergeant, you have excellent taste in comic books in terms of DC all the way. But yeah, lots have happened since then. But yeah,
Some good,
Jeff Johns,
some bad.
Some good, some bad. But a lot of good has happened since then. So definitely check out, like, at least, let me put it this way, Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run alone is worth hopping back in.
And the Flash rebirth is pretty good too.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I noticed, by the way, and this is general Green Lantern, but have you noticed how, like, the writers and artists have gotten more creative with the constructs, like in Last Ride and Dark Crisis, they have the entire construct is the Justice League.
Yeah.
Instead of just a fist or a missile or anything like that, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing there. That's actually really cool. There was also a Superman and Lois run that was really awesome. Yeah, because they introduced John Kent.
That was kind of a prelude maxi mini series, and it goes right into the Superman Action Comics rebirth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, by the way, can you imagine? I just want to say this: a Zack Snyder directed Green Lantern movie.
That'd be dope. With
his visual style and Green Lantern. Dude, because it would basically be DC's version of Rebel Moon, kind of.
Depending on which storyline they do, but yeah, it would definitely be a spectacle.
You know, he'll probably do Emerald Twilight because that's dark as hell. Or he could do like Sinestro Corps War and just say the Green Lantern Corps exists. It would be lit. Ta-da. And yes, that was fun, the movie. I definitely liked the buddy cop aspect of that. And once again, Troy Baker was fantastic. By the way, Shayera Hall, if you guys have ever played Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, she is Salter from Infinite Warfare. That's who voices her.
I knew that voice was familiar.
That's who she is!
I haven't played that game in years, and I still recognized her.
That's who voiced her. I was like, yeah, exactly. I was like, who the hell? Why have I heard this voice before? Oh, wait a second. Yeah, that's Salter. And she nails it. She gets that whole I will kill you aspect of Shayera really well.
And this is kind of my gripe with the DCAM. They turned New 52 Wonder Woman into Shayera. Compare Shayeра's battle-hardened personality to New 52 Wonder Woman.
Yeah, it in terms of DeCamo, yeah, they definitely did that. Oh my gosh, yes. And what was worse, they had Hawkman on the Justice League, so they could just bring in Shayera.
Well, if they did that, you would have had I don't think they would have been able to help themselves. The moment you put Shayera in there, that you would have had one hell of a love triangle. They wouldn't have been able to help themselves.
True. But speaking of Green Arrow, how do you feel about Green Arrow killing his best friend? Yeah, I felt
he does it in 0 hour, and it's a deep cut, and it's kind of a mercy killing since.
And yes, I agree.
Yeah, since again, John Stewart's a Marine. In the story, he's gripping with PTSD, so you could argue he takes the shot as a mercy killing, but I think it would have had a stronger payoff if John, resisting the urge to kill, uses a hard construct to just knock John out, and then they just halt back to the watchtower.
No, actually, Green Arrow was the one who killed Hal. It wasn't John.
No, John had the opportunity during their struggle. He doesn't go through with it. Hal gets the upper hand, and Oliver takes the shot.
Yeah, they could have just knocked him out. I felt it was kind of like too stereotypical in a superhero movie to just kill off the villain first off, and you shouldn't make Hal Jordan the one and done. At least give him an opportunity at redemption. You don't have to go through with it, but give him the opportunity.
Which is what they tried to do when they had Oliver try to talk.
Yes, they did. Down. And by the way, Master Sergeant, if you don't want to get the entire omnibus, they also have these trades for Green Lantern, which are basically the Jeff Johns run. I was just showing the omnibus because that's what I had on hand.
You get everything at once with the omnibus. You're gonna pay more, but you get everything.
There's 3 volumes of the omnibus. The first one has Rebirth, a little bit of the interior storylines, and then I believe it is Sinestro Corps War. 2 has Two
Blackest
is Blackest Night, right?
Yeah,
3
2 is
has
Blackest.
so 3 has Third Army and then the new 52 stuff. So I mean, if you want like a lot if you want like a lot of story, I would go with the omnibus. That's just me.
But as I was saying, you really could that way you could have had sequel bait that Hal's gripping with with his near death experience and Parallax omnibus.
Omnibus, and start with volume 1 just to see if you like it.
Yeah. And to make it a long story short, you don't use Parallax as a one and done.
Yeah. Particularly if it's the Green Lantern movie. That's like making Sinestro a one and done movie villain.
Which is what they essentially did.
Yeah, they just killed him. I'm like, what the hell, dude?
I mean, they had him as a foil for Parallax, but outside of that, you could have just had Sinestro just cut his losses and bail.
Also, you can make the argument he wasn't serving Hal Jordan, he was serving Parallax. He saw that it was Parallax that was talking through Hal Jordan. So you can make because he's always like sort of worked for Parallax. You can make that argument.
In some capacity, he ends up working for Parallax, whether it's to maintain his powers or he's directly scared or threatened by the entity. It just depends on the story.
Yeah, it just depends on what you want to go for. But yeah, he's not exactly going for. Yeah, I just think it's a complete waste. I'll get all the omnibuses. Oh, you're committing. You're going all the way. Well, that is and what's great about the end of the line. I'm not going to spoil it, but it
goes full circle.
It goes full circle. Yes, it's really cool how he ends it. So I'm not going to spoil it. And actually, let me know what you think about it. But let me ask you this. What other Green Lantern stories would you want to see in an animated movie? Or, even a live action? Because it occurred to me we haven't talked about this.
Okay, I would definitely like see a Simon Bass, Jessica Cruz buddy cop. Basically, after Forever Evil. Roll the clip.
Yeah, I have to. As soon as I did that, I was like, yeah. Oh, man. There you go.
But yeah, I could definitely see it's right after Forever Evil. Jessica either has the power ring or she upgrades to a Green Lantern ring. And Simon, I wouldn't exactly pair them together, but I would definitely make it a buddy cop between the two. And it could be John or Hal lecturing them, giving them pointers. Maybe Gardner. Maybe go the hard ass approach.
Jeez.
No, that was more of a
it occurred to me, I got an actor who could play Guy Gardner. Remember Hangman from Top Gun Maverick?
No.
Wouldn't he make a good Guy Gardner?
He could do it.
He could do it. He could be that douchebag, right? Tell me in that movie he's not essentially being Guy Gardner. And Nick, if you're still in the chat, let me know what you think. But tell me that guy isn't essentially Guy Gardner.
Oh.
And by the way, that should be a Chris Showcase short. Yes. And I would like them to do Razor and Aya. Oh yeah, that would actually be pretty cool. That's a character that I can't believe they didn't bring into the comics was Razor.
Yeah, from GTAS. I didn't even think. I thought GTAS was just. Razor was going to be GTAS exclusive, but they brought him back for Young Justice. And fun fact, GTAS was the sister show for Young Justice on broadcast. So
and technically it's canon to Young Justice because as Razor goes, tell Hal I said hi. So I'm like, oh yes. I did not see that one coming. But that's a character, and that's a character I want to see in the comics because if there's anyone that I would love, particularly when you have like the Red Lantern storylines, I was been like, oh yes, so Razor would have been great in this. But once again, the one thing I can't like, the last thing I'll say about this movie, and the one thing I cannot like, I can never like get enough of hearing that Green Lantern oath being recited. But I think the best rendition of it was in the it was in the first arc, the John Stewart arc of Justice League, where the Manhunter's in the Central Power Battery, and he just belts it out because it's John Stewart and it's the actor, and he's like, "In brightest day, in blackest night." He goes through the whole thing, and I'm like, "Yes, tell me that wasn't epic."
And fun fact, there were a lot of O.J. Simpson trial references in that episode.
Really? Oh yeah.
You cannot go through that episode and not call out one O.J. Simpson reference.
And by the way, Black Canary and Mara should get green and red. Yes.
Green. It would depend. It would depend. If Green Canary works.
Deceased.
Yeah, but outside of Deceased, I can't really see a Green Canary outside of that story.
Yeah, I do. I mean, because I think that the only Green Lanterns that would be in the Nightmare timeline, that would be in JL 2 and 3, would be the ones that are already established, and the only like human Green Lanterns would be like maybe Hal Jordan and John Stewart. That's it. Yeah,
but if we're talking pure animation, then definitely.
Oh yeah. How about a Deceased animated movie series? Not like Injustice, and they try to cram it all into one movie.
I get your point.
What is with you and David Spade playing Green Arrow?
For God's sake. I mean, yes, David Spade does have some range, but he can't pull off Green Arrow. Booster Gold? Yes. Ted Kord Blue Beetle? Definitely. But not Green Arrow.
Yeah, he's not Green Arrow. No. Sorry, Joe.
I could see him as Booster Gold, though.
Yes, yeah, I could definitely see it. He could do Booster Gold or Blue Beetle or Ted Kord, yeah. But yeah, I would love to see a Sinestro Corps movie because I think that would be super dope, and you can play that like Star Wars because that's pretty much what it was. Blackest Night would also be pretty cool, but that would require like a significant amount of setup. Maybe like Rage of the Red Lanterns, and they could play it off like maybe Alien. Is there just two? There's 3 volumes of the omnibus. There's 3.
There's 3.
There's 3. So if you want to get the complete whole storyline, get all 3. They should have them on Amazon. But what do you want to see?
Me? Well, I just would like more Green Lantern in general. I wouldn't mind if I had to make anything strictly continuity related, like a Razor movie, probably like his first few years after GTAS ends, but before he ends up meeting Metron in deep space, like where he covers tracks about Aya, what pretty much his search and his reflective journey to becoming a Blue Lantern. Yeah,
that'd be cool. I'd love that. Right? How dope was it in Young Justice where he becomes a Blue and Red Lantern at the same time?
Oh, that was dope.
I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. I'm surprised no one's done that before. And let's see. I would also absolutely love to see just a small scale story. I would love to see essentially something like Green Lantern Aliens, but not obviously aliens. I mean, they could probably do like a crossover depending on like the politics. But what I mean is a Green Lantern horror movie, like a sci-fi horror movie.
If you're gonna do Green Lantern and Predator, it would just depend. It would depend.
I'm talking aliens.
Okay.
Because a xenomorph-like being, but it's Green Lanterns, that would be really, 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 first off, unique, because I don't think we've ever seen a Green Lantern horror movie.
That would actually make a good Jessica Cruz movie.
Yes! Yes, she has to overcome fear. There you go. And by the way, yes, the third one's dope. But yes, absolutely, that would be great. And and also I want to see more attention to Jessica Cruz and maybe Simon Baz, but mainly Jessica Cruz because I think she's a stronger character, really.
And Simon Baz is kind of an afterthought. I mean, not really. Simon Baz just wasn't given a whole lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
He's a convict seeking redemption, but I just feel
even like when he and Cruz were on the Justice League, it didn't really he didn't really get all the attention. It was mainly Jessica. I'm like, why are you here?
Wait, I don't know if this was late New 52 or early Rebirth, but didn't one of the Justice League boosts try to pair Barry and Jessica at one point?
That was Rebirth. That was Rebirth. That was odd. And then
I
she
mean,
makes out with Batman.
ugh.
And I'm like, by the way, how come nobody who isn't from Earth hasn't acquired the Speed Force? That is true, honestly. Why aren't there other speedsters?
That's actually, huh?
That's a really good question.
There are alien speedsters in the speed, if you're actually counting the multiverse or the speed.
Who outside of the Flash has Speed Force? No one. That's the point. That's really weird, though.
Barthon, Jay Garrick, Max Mercury,
Jesse Quick, or no, I'm saying, but outside of Earth beings, because they never say the Speed Force is stuck to Earth. So, by the way, speaking of Speed Force, they're doing a new Flash story that's super dope. It's a war that takes place in a minute. But obviously with the Flash, a minute is significantly longer.
So they're doing a 1 minute storyline. That's going to last no more than 2 issues. A whole storyline crammed into a 1 minute fight.
Well, they could do more with that because you know how time passes really slowly for speedsters.
Yeah, I suppose, but it would be a pure thematic piece. It wouldn't be anything really consistent with normal time flow. It would just be a thematic piece.
True. Now, let me ask you this. Let's go into this. What character would you like to see get a lantern ring?
Ooh. Like, does it have to be, like, anything goes?
Anything goes.
I
would want to see probably... We already had Mongol got a fear ring, and that's spot on. We got Superboy Prime got a fear ring. I would love to... By the way, I want to see Superman get a Blue Lantern ring. He never got one.
The Man of Steel never got a Blue Lantern ring to embody hope.
The embodiment of hope never got the Ring of Hope. Isn't that a missed opportunity?
Yeah, and I believe in Injustice that this could have been just a character ending. But in Injustice, Damian Wayne gets offered a Yellow Lantern ring. But I think that was strictly a character ending.
I think the character the character ending for Green Lantern is he goes undercover into the Sinestro Corps. I think that and other people's powers is what made the universe of characters nervous of Earth's heroes. It's in the water. Yeah, that's true. That's really good. That's really good. That's true. You see, like, Earth has all the god characters. But I would love to see, and by the way, you can count Marvel heroes, by the way.
Wait, a Yellow Lantern ring going to Ra's al Ghul.
Ooh. Oh, yes. Or how about a Red Lantern ring going to Red Hood?
That might as well be giving a Red Lantern ring to Damian Wayne.
Yeah, that's true.
Who arguably has more rage and angst.
True. I would give, let's see. How about Bane a fear ring?
Doesn't really fit his character.
Okay. I was about to say Scarecrow, but they already did that.
And he can't feel anything.
Yeah, that's true. How about what would be a really, really, really weird combination? How about
Lex Luthor with the powers of Indigo?
With hope?
No, Indigo's compassion.
That would be interesting.
Like the most selfish egomaniac on Earth, compelled by compassion to redeem him and be it. I mean, come on, the irony is there.
That would be hilarious. Yeah, exactly.
Like, he's doing all these nice things. He's doing some genuine goodwill. Like, okay, he's either under mind control or he's under the effect of an Indigo ring. Something's up.
Marvel heroes are great, but they exist in a lesser idea of a world. Ain't no Lobo going on in Marvel. True, but you can kind of count Wolverine as Lobo, but I see what you're saying there. How about Harley Quinn gets a Star Sapphire ring?
I don't even want to think about the chaos that would create.
If Darkseid got a ring, that would be probably a Black Lantern.
Okay. Spoiler. For DC's 3, War of the Undead Gods.
Yeah.
That was come to pass. Darkseid kills Sinestro and wields his Yellow Lantern ring.
Yeah. With me, it would either be Sinestro core or a Black Lantern ring. Probably, I would say. What ring would
I am dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Dark side.
What if Zack Snyder had a ring? He would have all of them. What are you talking about? If he had a ring, he would have all. That'd be a Vero post. He would have like all the rings. Unlimited power. I need that clip. Dang it.
No, if you're gonna say it right. Unlimited power.
Yeah, exactly. What ring would Aquaman get?
Maybe
compassion.
Maybe. I would say willpower is more accurate.
Cool. True, because he is willful. I would say Batman would actually work as a Green Lantern ring because of the sheer willpower he uses.
Yeah, but fear would work with him better.
True, because the whole thing is you have the ability to instill great fear. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what if they pull a razor and have a Green Lantern ring on one gauntlet and a Yellow Lantern ring on the other? And he uses will and fear.
In the new 52, when Batman had his contingency plans to fight Green Lantern, he had like a Yellow Lantern ring that didn't have much charge in it.
But enough.
And then Sinestro goes, if you just gave yourself over to the ring, you'd be great as a Yellow Lantern. And I'd say some of the best character designs were Batman as a lantern. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Isn't it Arkham Origins where one of the skins is a Black Lantern Batman?
I think it's Arkham Origins. I want to say it's Arkham Origins.
Yeah, but we've forgotten that game exists. Ooh, imagine having Batman with a yellow ring versus Darkseid, like how we got Cap with Mjolnir versus Thanos. That would be cool. And he just, when he lets out the ring, his first construct is a swarm of bats.
Now, imagine in DC's 3, you get the face-off with Darkseid coming to Earth, and you have Damian Wayne's Batman wielding a yellow ring. You killed my father.
Now, here's the thing.
Die.
Yes, my name is Damian Wayne. You killed my father. Prepared. He keeps saying that over and over again. By the way, what I could see, I have a theory that since they're bringing in lantern rings at the end of Deceased, they're going to use a white lantern ring to bring back everyone that died.
That would be such a cheesy ending, but I could see Tom Taylor.
It's a Tom Taylor book. What would you expect?
It's a very cheesy ending.
It's a Tom Taylor book. What do you expect? He's Mr. Cheesy Writer, so...
Except in Son of Kal-El, because that was just straight sour. That was like moldy cheese.
That was worse than moldy cheese. That was moldy ass. That's just no. That's everything in canon that Tom Taylor ever writes, pretty much.
Yeah, because editorials on him more. There's clearly a disconnect, because editorials isn't on him nowhere near as bad on Elseworld books. They let him do a 6 to 12 issue series and then just leave it at that.
And he's so good at the Elseworlds books. That's the thing. And I keep telling people, it's not like he's a horrible writer in general. He's just a horrible canon writer. And by the way, I think it gets a little too fantastical when the comics blend characters. Batman is Batman, no ring required. Yes, I agree with you on that one. It is kind of cool when it happens in the comics, but I see what you're saying there. Batman doesn't need any rings to beat
Speaking of blend
Darkseid.
characters, Batman Superman fusion, world's finest. That was
dope. That was dope. They even gave him a lantern ring. Dude, I hope McFarlane makes an action figure of that because I want it really bad. They should imagine if they did that in an animated movie. Tevi, if you're still in here, imagine if in the Super Sons they merge them together, except it's Damian and John together into that being.
We never speak of this again.
And his superhero name is Super Son. And I will say, again, I love how it's kind of an interesting little coincidence how the enemy in Tom Taylor's book is named Ben Dix.
It's more of an it's irony because Bendix is basically was Stormwatch's Lex Luthor basically, and it's easy to fall into that trap. But that's not who all Bendix is.
No, I know that, but isn't it kind of interesting how, like, in the book of the character that Bendix destroyed, the enemy is Bendix. Of all the villains you could pick, Bendix. The villains you could pick for that book.
There was some meta humor there. I'm not going to deny it.
You can't tell me someone was like, but let's see. Oh, you know, it'd be hilarious. What if in the next Super Sons movie they do the age up? Like they literally do the age up.
Well, they got to age up Damien too, because otherwise a lot of people would be pissed off.
No, they do it because it would piss people off because that's what they did beforehand. But anyway, I would love to see Hawkgirl with a Red Lantern ring.
She would have no self-control. That's a berserker rage.
Yeah, exactly. Berserk. Can you imagine that? And they're like, "Do not interfere. Do not interfere." Dr. Fate with a Blue Lantern ring.
No, hold on. You know, have you ever watched that 70s show?
No.
Look up that 70s show. It's enjoyable. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil it for you.
Yeah. But yeah, imagine it's like it would turn into like a Red Lantern is so you know how Green Lantern, and this is introduced in Jeff Johns' run. You know how Green Lanterns are in Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, they introduced the idea that there are multiple Lantern cores based on all the different emotions a being can
represent.
Represent. It's like red is powered by rage, blue is by hope, indigo is compassion, pink is love. Yeah, that's pretty on the nose, and yellow is fear. So essentially what you're going to see in Jeff Johns' run is that he starts to sprinkle in all these different Lantern cores.
Orange is avarice / greed.
Yeah, orange is avarice / greed, and Larfleeze is the only orange Lantern because he won't let anyone else have a ring.
I know you were going to save this till tomorrow to Comics League Dark, but this breaking news, people are losing their minds.
About what?
Should we go ahead and tell it? We'll go into more detail on this tomorrow night stream.
Yeah.
But it has been confirmed Elon Musk has finalized the taking over of Twitter.
Yeah. I love how, by the way, what's kind of funny is when you look at like the response to that, because one of the first things he did is he fired all the executives of the company, and people are playing the na 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 song. Hey, goodbye. Yeah. But it's going to be interesting to see how the internet changes because of this. But again, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow on tomorrow's Comics League Dark. But yeah, so essentially, it's the idea about how there are multiple different Lantern cores. That's where you have characters like Atrocitus, Sinestro, Star Sapphire.
GTAS adapts this pretty well, except cramming Anti-Monitor at the end, but that's besides the point.
Kind of like multiple colors of kryptonite for the sake of story creation. But here's the thing. Jeff Johns did it much better with the Lantern cores. It was more than a plot convenience.
You would just have to read the omnibus for yourself to get the full effect.
But trust me, it's really good. It's way better than what Smallville did, because Smallville had some good moments, but there were a few times where I'm like, these are horrible writers.
And to be fair, they were taking from the Silver Age. Blue kryptonite, gold kryptonite, the kryptonite that shall not be named, among others.
You mean the pink kryptonite? Do you want to tell them what the pink kryptonite does?
You got to roll the clip, man. You got to roll the clip.
I know.
Why did you say that name?
Do you want to tell them what that kryptonite does?
Save the children.
Do you want to tell them?
Spare the children.
Good. Read it and let me know what you think. It's so fun. But by the way, okay, I'm going to say it makes them gay. Somehow that works.
So are you? So basically, Jay Nakamura dyed his hair pink.
It would be funny if they figured out he was using pink kryptonite.
The whole time.
Yeah, John Kent's not really by. It's just the explosion of pink kryptonite. Oh, and they also had in the olden days, the red kryptonite would give him a lion's head. Because that's the silver. Oh yeah, pink. Of course, it's pink, right? But yeah, Silver Age was very interesting. There's that image of Superman carrying a solar system on a chain.
No, that was Golden Age.
Oh, that was Golden Age?
That's a Golden Age story.
Okay. It wasn't even a story. It was like, here's what he did before you actually got to the comic. I'm like, wow. But before we log off, how would you rate Green Lantern Beware My Power out of like 10? And then how would you rate it of the other Tomorrowverse movies you've gotten?
As a standalone, I would give it an 8. I would give it an 8 as a standalone. In context to the Tomorrowverse, I give it a 7.5. Not too much of a downgrade, but that's due to a lack of world building.
Yeah, because all of a sudden the Justice League exists, and I'm like, okay. I mean, they did show it in post. What they tried to do is that they tried to show the Justice League forming in the post-credit scenes, because after that Flash movie, they had like the post-credit for Long Halloween. Spoilers is the Justice League showing up. Pink was masculine until the 20s when gays in New York began using it as a mask. Oh, interesting. Cool. I did not know that. That's probably why they went with that. But yeah. But I agree with you. I'd give it like a solid 8 out of 10, partly because that wasn't John Stewart's origin. And there were a few things I think they could have done a lot better, but it was still a pretty solid movie. And in context with the Tomorrowverse, yeah, I give it that it jumps too far ahead and asks us to like believe, okay, Justice League exists. What? Why? Where was this movie? But in their defense, how many Justice League forming movies have we gotten? As particularly in animated.
3.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are you counting animated movies or animated content in general?
Content in general.
Content in general is a lot more, but if you're talking strictly animated movies, we've only gotten 3.
Well, yeah, and we also have like the live action movie too. So I think what they were trying to say is that we know that some threat showed up, the Justice League form, so let's just skip ahead to that. But here's why you can't do that. That's kind of significant. It's like something
like that. You could use tie-in comics. That way, you don't have to waste big bucks on a whole animated movie. Just create a tie-in comic about the Justice League forming and do it that way.
Yeah, but you can't like give us nothing and then just expect, okay, the Justice League exists and the Watchtower is here and all this. I'm like, okay, and Vexen's on the League, even though she in no way starred in the movie. At least Green Arrow was in the post-credit scene of Long Halloween.
And DeCamu had better setup in this, and they barely used anyone outside the Bat family.
Yeah, that's true. And in their Justice League movies, they pretty much only used the core Justice League members for the most part.
They had extensions. Well, Mara became an extension with Aquaman and Hawkman and John Stewart.
But here's the thing. Mara, they didn't use Mara after Throne of Atlantis except for like Apocalypse War.
Because she's envoy to Atlantis while Aquaman's on mission. That was more so for the sake of politics.
Okay, I see. Because I was like, wait a second here.
Because someone has to run the kingdom on Arthur's behalf while he's away.
That's true. And by the way, that's another great Jeff Johns run. Is his Aquaman run. That's actually pretty dope. But yeah, I agree. But at least the first movie in the DeCamu was Justice League War of them forming and fight, which basically was a page to screen for the most part.
Alterations here and there, but not much.
Yeah, for Origin. But I get why they did Aquaman, why they took out Aquaman. But I think they could have still done a Throne of Atlantis storyline and still had Aquaman in there.
The only difference is that in Throne of Atlantis in the comic is that Arthur's already established as king and Orm's conspiring against him. That's really the only difference.
Yeah, that's true. And you can tell that like the live action movie also took inspiration from that, because the same story beats for the most part. Aquaman's a screw up drunk, and then he's kind of being a hero, but
not really. Mara drags him out of his stupor, and
can't bring myself to a place that appreciates it without compromising the point of Batman. That is true. To a degree, that is true. That is true, but it does what it kind of does having the Bat family is that it shows progression in Batman's character, is that he learns to sort of open up and trust people again.
Even though it creates a generations long stagnant, because you could factor that because Bruce is so stagnant and stoic, he enables generational neglect. I mean, God forbid he ends up demonizing and lashing out because of baby mama drama or an injustice where Dick ends up killed because of a tragic accident. I mean, Bruce
accident.
Bruce X Talia is toxic as hell. No one's denouncing that, but you don't take that out on the kid. The kid's only connection to it is that he came out the woman's that he was born. You don't take that out on the kid in any circumstance.
I would love if that's the title for a Batman movie, Toxic Family Drama. That would be great. Batman, Toxic Family Drama, directed by Matt Reeves. Oh, jeez. That would be great. Oh, my gosh.
I wouldn't be surprised if he did that, though.
Yeah. When you think about it, that's the movie where they do Batcest. Oh my gosh. I still can't believe that was ever a thing. Jeez. I get the story reason why they did it, but it's one of those things where you could do that. You could still have the effect without doing that. It's like essentially, actually, I'll tell this story and you may be able to back me up on this, Jay Heat, but do you know what they wanted to do to Wonder Woman in the 90s?
I think you told me this, but iterate.
I'll reiterate for the fans. Oh, dude, he grooms kids, Robin, to be the next Batman just to get some high school kid in Batman Beyond. Yeah, that's true. That is interesting. He grooms people to be Batman. Then all of a sudden, he just grabs this kid off the streets to be Batman.
The only kid he literally grabbed off the street was Jason Todd. That was the only one. The rest were victims of circumstance, and he was just trying to mentor them, given how much of a cesspool Gotham is. But the only one who could genuinely make the argument he groomed and picked off the street was Jason Todd. And Jason Todd was already deep in crime as it was. So
that's true. So here's the story. So, yeah, none of them become Batman. That's the point. He doesn't want them to become Batman. He wants them to become their own heroes.
Or live their own lives as they decide to leave the game one day.
Yeah, that's true. So here's what. So in the 90s, DC wanted Wonder Woman to have her own edgy storyline, because you had like Dark Knight Returns and you had the death of Superman. So they thought, okay, we should have him for Wonder Woman. So they had a bunch of writers in a room. And they asked, okay, so pitch me an edgy Wonder Woman story. So Mark Millar, of course, is Mark Millar. He was not serious on this. It was a joke.
It was a joke.
It was a joke. He pitched the rape of Wonder Woman, where it'd start with like 10 pages of her being raped in public, just to see her like recover and essentially grow as a hero. I get that, but there are ways to do that without doing that.
First of all, it brings back the misconception that Wonder Woman was basically because it's not directly referenced in Seduction of the Incident, but you could make the argument that Wonder Woman and how her only real weakness was binding her to her own lasso was an innuendo for
and tying her up.
Yep, was a
Droga was Joss Whedon involved. If you read that Joss Whedon Wonder Woman script, it's some of the most like offensive humor ever. Oh my gosh, that was so good. Just Joss Whedon involved. Oh my gosh.
But, I need a bigger boat.
Jeez. I'm still getting over that because well done on that one, Draga. That was great. Was Joss Whedon involved somehow? They'll find out. Oh, I was inspired by Joss Whedon project. But yeah, but by the way, read if you want to laugh. Read the Joss Whedon Wonder Woman script. All you have to say is it's written by Joss Whedon. That should be all you have to know about how horrible it is. But yeah, getting back to that, it was like, granted, let me put it this way, it wasn't like out of the blue that somehow Palpatine returned. It wasn't. That should be a caption for when Zack Snyder comes back. Somehow Zack Snyder returned. But except cool. But What's kind of funny is that when you look at like how Wonder Woman comics were back then, he wasn't just grasping at straws, because you had panels of Wonder Woman like tied up like this, spread eagle. So I'm like, as Wonder Woman being spanked. So I'm like, it wasn't like he was just grasping at straws like the media seems to do today.
But even back then, you have to admit that was a little overboard.
Oh yeah, that was way overboard.
But they did eventually settle with Wonder Woman killing Maxwell Lord in the early 2000s. So she did get her edgy storyline.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And actually, that was a great storyline because, although here's the thing, that was character assassination on the fact of Batman and Superman. Because yes, they would be like angry that she killed someone, but they wouldn't like disown her. They wouldn't disown her. They
were so holier than thou about it, especially Batman.
Like, Batman, you've killed people. Let's not get all holier than thou. But wait a second, Batman, who has contingency plans and understands Superman was being mind controlled. Superman. He actually previously attacked you and beat you up. You should be like, okay, I would have rather you didn't kill him, but I get what you were doing. And there were no other psychics in the room, let alone one powerful enough to actually break Maxwell Lord's hold. It was a reluctant situation. Now, and he was wrapped in the lasso of truth and said, "I will never release Superman." And she said the only way to release him is to kill him. She did what she had to do. I love the panel. It's just her blank face, crack. Which I'm like, that is her. Which I'm like, I get. See, that's the way you do an edgy storyline. Except again, the Batman, Superman's. Let me say, both of those guys should not have been as a-holic to her. Granted, they made up for it. I get the feeling the writers saw their error, because if you notice, after that storyline, Batman and Superman were more like, yeah, we shouldn't have insulted her. Except in Infinite Crisis, when they show up on the Watchtower and they're all like, "What are you doing here? You're not welcome here anymore." And I'm like, what? Well, they did that specifically because of banter, because they were so busy bickering amongst themselves. They let the villains of Infinite Crisis completely outmaneuver them. It was mostly for the sake of dynamic tension. But my favorite line from that thing is where Batman goes to Superman, "The only time you ever inspired someone is when you were dead." And he was right. He was right. That was good. That was interesting. He was right. But that doesn't mean you have to say that. But what I did like is that in the Justice League run that followed, in Brad Meltzer's Justice League run, the first issue, they all are in a room together. It's awkward. And then before anyone could apologize, they're like, nope. No apologies necessary. We're moving on now. That happened in the past. What's past is past. Let's move on. And now they're back to being best friends. So I'm like, okay, that was a way to fix it. And I do have one nitpick about Grant Morrison's JLA. The Superman red and Superman blue. Oh my gosh. Well, that was something he was forced into. He didn't really have a choice. When you think about it, he was also forced because Diana was dead partway through his run too. So yeah, at least he did cool stuff with the blue Superman, kind of. It just doesn't work for Clark. Now they're trying to bring it back with John Kent Superman in his mini series. No, you mean Superboy, because he's not Superman. Okay, Superboy. Let's clarify that point right there, okay? But yeah, at least they're doing something unique. But here's the thing. They're just now getting to him fighting Ultraman and dealing with his trauma. This is what the Son of Kal-El series should have been. But how are you going to get Ultraman to Earth 1? I mean, it's the multiverse. DC will find a way. Nature finds a way. It's just editorial and just social media works to an extent, but you have to notice, there's a difference between a phantom audience that doesn't exist, that's not going to support your product, and an established fan base that will, especially when your market is a niche audience. Mm-hmm. Son of Kal-El was a cautionary tale. You could argue these past 2 to 3 years was a cautionary tale. Yeah, no matter what anyone tells you, the comic book industry is not getting any better. If anything, it's been going down. And because this is part of it, because let me put it this way. How big was Rebirth for DC, dude? Massive. They outsold Marvel. They outsold Marvel And that was, and here's the thing. Here's why I attribute that, and then we'll log off. But Marvel was doing the all new, all different at the time, so they were changing everything. DC said first, we screwed up. We're gonna put everything back, and then they went back to the era people like. So everyone's like, oh, they're respecting us as fans instead of having us accept Amadeus Cho as the Hulk. Which I'm like, there you go.
And all new, all different only lasted about 2 years. If you go as far back as Marvel now in 2014, its precursor, Marvel's numbers were atrocious. So really, DC didn't even have to try that hard. But it was goodwill all around. It improved the brand.
And let's not forget Marvel's sin of like making Scott Summers even more of a dick. But to the point where he literally became a supervillain. I'm like, okay, I do not. As a fan of X-Men, I don't like this.
At some point, you're crossing a line. I mean, if you want to regress and make characters assholes for the sake of dynamic tension, there's a classy way to go about it.
Yeah, but what they did to Scott was just bad.
Just atrocious. It really was.
They could have turned him into the Superman of the X-Men, and he's like because he was supposed. The reason why Professor X had him as the leader is because he's supposed to embody what the mutant race can be. Oh, so you're telling me the mutant race can be a bunch of terrorists?
And the Krakoa storyline, the Krakoa storyline went way too long.
So Jonathan hit when you read what was set up in Hawks and Pox, dope as hell, like really, really cool. So something new with the X-Men. But the problem is that immediately after it sold gangbusters, Marvel abandoned Hickman's plan and let the writers do whatever they want. They started having a bunch of proms. They started having orgies on the island. So I'm like, oh my gosh, guys, just throw the damn thing into the sun now and get rid, because it was always supposed to, the Krakoa thing was supposed to be temporary. But no, they're like, we now live here. This sucks. And now death means absolutely nothing because they can just back them up like a freaking PC.
Now, Day of Judgment Day is trying to fix some of that. With the Sentinels, it is trying to fix some of that. But Marvel got Disney. But ever since Marvel's acquisition by Disney, they got money to burn, so they really don't care.
Yeah. Oh, as a side, I noticed that you have Aliens Colonial Marines as a wallpaper behind you, one of your videos. I have all the completed newsstand 10s. Ooh. Can you explain why the first issue is one of 12? I don't wait. Hang on.
You sure that wasn't a maxi series?
It was probably a maxi series, but wait, I have an aliens thing on the background of one of my videos. Aliens Colonial Marines. Because I have the game and the statue and all. Oh, you know why? I covered it on one of my Indie Wednesday books. Yeah, exactly. I covered because Dark Horse did that. Yeah, I think it was because it was just a maxi series, not an ongoing. By the way, Marvel's Predator book is really good. It's about a girl whose family was killed by predators, and now she's hunting predators. It is so cool throughout the galaxy. It's actually credit where credit is due, and they're doing an ongoing series on the Mandalorian that's essentially the comic book version of the show. They're recreating all the episodes, but each issue is an episode.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, that's cool. I love that. But to quote your point, and by the way, we should definitely talk about this tomorrow with Nick too. But it seems like because here's the thing, DC also is under a corporation, so it's not like they have. So they also have money to burn, but I feel like DC is more like discerning with what it puts out.
Well, DC's in a more compromised position because they got so much debt. They have to make a profit. They have to show goodwill.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And yeah, there's something so complex can be resolved with such a simple matter. And it's not just fan entitlement. This isn't an Infinite Crisis situation. This isn't not pure fan entitlement. It's just quality story and good craftsmanship. Now, this new generation of writers, there is a learning curve, but recruiting writers off Tumblr and Reddit, glorified fanfic writers, that's not the way to go. I mean, look at X-Men in the past 3 years, for God's sake.
And even the artists, they hired people that aren't superhero writers. They hired fashion designers.
Tim Drake Robin. That's all.
Mhm.
That art style does not work at all.
It does not work. Plus, here's the thing: it's not working. But on average, actually, part of the reason why I like DC over Marvel is because, for the most part, DC is less woke than Marvel. For the most part, there's still going to be stuff because of the
editorial and powers that be.
Editorial and where DC is based and where most of the people in the entertainment industry lean. But for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, DC seems to focus more on telling good storylines because look at this way, there's more non-woke books at DC than there are at Marvel.
And they're less obnoxious
and
about it.
Yeah, the less obnoxious about it. Yeah.
No, we're talking about we're talking about the Tim Drake Pride special is literally just a trade paperback of the anthology issues. Most of it is. There might be an original story at the very end, but it's mostly just a trade paperback. We're talking about the Tim Drake Robin ongoing, which took the place of Damian Wayne's Robin series. Just look it up. I'm not going to talk about it here because we'll be here for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, we don't. But yeah, but anyways, so that's our discussion of Green Lantern Run My Power and by Master Sergeant. Do let me know in the comments of this or in an email. My email's down there. What you think of Jeff Johns as you're going on, and then maybe at some point I'll do a stream where Jay Heat and I talk about it. But all in all, it was a very enjoyable movie. I liked it. Some things I didn't like. But be sure to join us tomorrow.
Droga.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But so we'll be live again tomorrow at same time, 12:15. And here's the thing: the new midnight live show is going to be on Friday nights from 12:15 for probably an hour or two, like we did tonight. And that's me what it is instead of doing daily live streams, because this was really brutal. Only reason why we did it this time is because DC kept coming out.
Coming on this week.
We couldn't wait. So from now on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Comics League's Dark is going to be more akin to Nerderotics Friday Night Ties, where we get all the boys together. We talk for a good 2, maybe 3 hours if the conversation flows well or is good enough, depending. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be something like that. That's more that, and we cover a week's worth of news rather than doing multiple live streams. And depending on your time zone, like the UK, almost 5 o'clock in the morning, because so much news stacks on top of each other. This is the 4th time we've done this.
Yeah, I'm delirious, but yeah, tomorrow is going to be more the regular day and time, and then obviously content's going to be the same coming out for the rest of the times. And by the way, the only reason why I couldn't do an Indie Wednesday on Wednesday is because of these streams. I didn't have time to record anything. But so everything's going to come back in terms of content I got coming out. Tomorrow I'm recording with, I believe, you and Nick, a video we're talking about why the Snyder cut works and the Whedon cut does not. We'll be recording that, I think, at about 1:30, 1:45.
Roll the clip.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, because I mentioned it who must not be named. Hang on.
Why did you say that name?
Nightwing is thick, though. I will agree on that one. But yeah. But so that's pretty much what we got coming. And then be on the lookout for us on each other's streams, because we're going to be appearing on each other's streams a lot.
And tomorrow, and right after I show up on the 1 o'clock, I'm going to be on Nick's channel, Phoenix Press, for Friday Night Frenzy. And then we'll do Comics League Dark a couple hours after that.
Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be a lot of content. And by the way, it's 1:30 for it should be about 1:30 or so for our recording with Nick.
Okay.
All right. So stay heroic, everyone, and I will see you in the next one. Jay Heat, always a pleasure.
You too, Jared. Excelsior.
Right, Excelsior.